Coming to you from the mountains and the plain. The only conservative voices brave enough to push back. This is the Conservative Daily Podcast with Joe Otto.
That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Otto and Max McGuire.
And welcome back to another edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. A happy Independence Day, since today is July 3rd. It's the day that's officially recognized since Independence Day falls on a weekend this year. So this is our Happy Independence Day episode. And as always, my name is Max McGuire.
And this is Joe Otto.
And we're going to talk about Independence Day. We're going to talk a little bit towards the end about our organization and what we do. But we have to start today with the issue of the day, which is that yesterday, and Mr. Producer, if you can throw up image number one, yesterday, the NFL revealed that they're going to be playing what they're calling the Black National Anthem before the Star-Spangled Banner at least the Week 1 games of the NFL season. So apparently the Black National Anthem, if no one knows, it's a song called Lift Every Voice, and we're going to play a little bit of it in a bit. It was written by a man, and it was set to music by another man named J. Rosamond Johnson, who was a school teacher. He taught chorus, and he took a poem that his brother had written, and he made it into a song so that the school children in his Jacksonville, Florida school could sing it. And that was in 1900. And somehow today, this is a Black National Anthem. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to play a little bit of it so you can hear what it actually is. Because before today, I didn't even know that there was a Black National Anthem at all. Joe, did you know that there was a Black National Anthem?
No, I mean I knew of that song, which is it's actually ironic that they're using that song as the Black National Anthem for a lot of reasons. Do you know the historical significance of that song?
Well, I was just it was originally written, correct me if I'm wrong, it was written to celebrate Abraham Lincoln. It was written on his birthday to commemorate his birthday.
Yeah, so
and it was set to music so school children could sing it.
Yeah, so it actually even has a deeper meaning than that. It was meant to celebrate the white support for ending slavery, and it was first played by black children, about 400 or 500 of them, at Abraham Lincoln's birthday. Right, birthday celebration. So it has significance in the unity that was created. And actually, you go back in history, which I'll try to revisionist history this too. If you go back in history, it was a celebration of things to come. It was a celebration of individual activity specific to how they were being treated by individuals. That there was a large group of whites that actually stood up for blacks. Period. Right. So, look, racism's been around for 4,000, 5,000 years, right? It's been around since the beginning of time. And it's not a new phenomenon. But what they're doing right now is they're creating a straw man's argument that somehow that they can. And by the way, this is segregationists that are doing this. This is the left. I mean, we wanted to call it what it is. Segregationists, people that say they want equality, are trying to separate black people specifically. And by the way, you know that they're mute on everything else. They're mute on Hispanics, they're mute on Asians, they're mute on everyone else, any other minority group. That's
the question. Is every race going to get a national anthem? I thought the Star-Spangled Banner represented all Americans. To say that there's a black nation living within the United States, I want to talk to that a little bit later because it's an insane idea that there is a black nation and that they need their own national anthem and they shouldn't sing. That the Star-Spangled Banner isn't good enough for them to call their own. But before we get any further, because I had no idea what this news was about, right? So I want to play a brief clip of this as it was performed at a C-SPAN event. Have to do this so that we can critique it and use this legally in Virginia. Back in 2001. I had to go way back to find something we could actually critique and use as fair use. So let's go ahead and play cut one.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty.
Oh, it seems like a nice song. It's the first time I'd ever heard it. And Joe, a lot of people don't know this. You know this. I am a singer. I've played in bands, cover bands, wedding bands, a cappella in college. I was in chorus all through elementary school, middle school, and high school. And what a lot of people don't know is that the way that choral programs in public schools get their funding is to actually teach cultural enrichment, which is why around like the holidays, you sing songs about Kwanzaa and Hanukkah and Christmas. Why during Black History Month, you sing African American spirituals, right? It's part of the history funding that schools get. So I was shocked because when I saw this headline yesterday, I had never sung the Black National Anthem. And being in all of those choruses, all of those choirs, I know that if a Black National Anthem existed, the social justice warriors who were teaching the choir and leading the choirs would have absolutely forced me to sing it. We sang every other African American spiritual song under the sun, right? So I started thinking to myself, did I miss something? Am I ignorant? Is it just me not realizing it, that there's this Black National Anthem that we all should have known? Kind of like how I had no idea what Juneteenth was until all of a sudden they started making that out to be a big thing this year. And it turns out, no. Like, it is not, there has not been a Black National Anthem. It is not an official song. The NAACP says that it should be, but there's no official designation. It's insane that now we're going to play that before an NFL games. Usually that's reserved for the Olympics or the World Cup when two different countries are going to play. Right. You play each country's national anthem. To play this in a league where there are so many African-American players, right, it suggests that they are not part of this American nation. It's insane.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just say this right now. It's not only insane, it is the left doing what the left does. They are segregating blacks. Right? Margaret Sanger actually started the Planned Parenthood for the sole purpose of destroying black environments. The Tuskegee experiments were done to destroy black communities. These were all done by liberals. These were all done by progressives. All of the things that we're experiencing in the black community is all happening because people have literally muled them along and acted like they're supporting them while they've destroyed every fiber of what they actually stand for. And if I'm wrong, then please tell me why the most dangerous places in the U.S. are run by Democrats, right? Why the police forces are Democrat, why the mayors are Democrat, why the governors are Democrat. Why? Yeah. Why do they have the most problems in those areas if they care about black people? Because they don't. I'm going to say it. Let me just say it. And my family, for those of you that are listening that are new, my family's interracial. My family has, my dad's black, my mom's white, my whole family's interracial.
Did you grow up singing this Black National Anthem?
No, I grew up as an American. You know, I had a fight with somebody earlier today, and we were at a discussion that turned into them saying that, that we don't need to celebrate the 4th of July and it's a terrible day. And I was like, over my dead body, there's a couple things that I'll fight for. I'll fight for my friends. I'll fight for my family. Right, I will die on the same hill as I would for my friends and family of somebody that wants to attack my country, right? So I'm not willing to actually put up with it. I'm actually becoming a pretty vocal person when it comes to this, and I'm embarrassed by some of the people that mule along this virtue signaling argument that somehow we should separate black people in this country. It is absurd. It is an embarrassment, and it flies in the face of everything that we've been trying to accomplish holistically as Americans for the last 200 years. It just goes against it.
And that's what it is. This is virtue signaling, and we're going to say it again. We say it every show. Make sure if you're watching this, you hit that share button, because we're going to go into in depth about how crazy this is. Hit the share button because the powers that be at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, they don't want people to see this. So make sure you hit that share button. Make sure you like and comment on it. What's really interesting about the virtue signaling is that if you respond to this news that the Black National Anthem is going to be played, and you respond by saying, what Black National Anthem? You're accused of racism for your ignorance, for not having known that there was a Black National Anthem going all the way back to allegedly 1908. That you're accused of ignorance. Just like if you disagree with all of a sudden making Juneteenth a federal holiday out of nowhere. Right. As we've talked on the show, Juneteenth is a holiday that was primarily celebrated in Galveston, Texas, because the city of Galveston was the last to learn about the Emancipation Proclamation. They learned about it on June 19th, 1865, 1,001 days after Abraham Lincoln signed it. They were just the last to learn that it had been signed, right? So Juneteenth didn't become a Texas holiday until 1980.
Right.
You have people in Washington, D.C. now, Republicans, Ron Johnson, right, saying that Juneteenth is our second Independence Day, and it hasn't even formally existed before 1980. And
They're
if you
rewriting
dare
history.
if you dare say, what are you talking about? Juneteenth isn't our second Independence Day. I've never even heard of this. Or this isn't a real holiday. So
because
you're racist.
They are segregating. They are segregating our society. They are segregating people and putting them into boxes. They are giving them. They are treating black people right now as if literally they don't matter while they say they matter. And I know that it's becoming difficult for people to actually understand what I'm saying because they're like, oh, that's not what's happening at all. No, it's absolutely what's happening.
Yeah.
It's absolutely what's happening. So I want to go back, if I can, for a minute. I want to read this to you because this morning, it came out a long time ago. It was written by Johnny Cash, right? And it was a song that he wrote. Do you know what song I'm talking about?
Might be. Just go ahead and read it.
All right. So this is actually, let me see if I got it here real quick. It's called Ragged Old Flag, right?
Oh, yeah, and I know the song.
So, Johnny Cash never sang a ounce in his, he was the early rapper, by the way, if you want to call it. he was kind of a...
He absolutely sang.
But he did some rapping. I mean, if it was early rapping to have happen, it was done by Johnny Cash, right?
A lot of it was spoken word. A lot of it was talking. But he was definitely a singer. He was a bass. He had a low voice.
He was a singer, but let's be honest. He should be called the grandfather of rap music. Because he
don't say that. If you tell the black community that rap music was created by a white man, Johnny Cash, they might go burn down.
No, they won't.
Burn down his museum.
All right, so it says, here it is, ready? So I walked through a county courthouse square. On a park bench, an old man was sitting there. I said, your old courthouse is kind of run down. He said, nah, it'll do for our little town. I said, your old flagpole has leaned a little bit, and that's a ragged old flag you got hanging on it. And he said, have a seat, and I sat down. Is this the first time you've been to our little town? I said, I think it is. He said, I don't like to brag, but we're kind of proud of that ragged old flag. You see, we got a little hole in that flag there when Washington took it across the Delaware, and it got powder burned the night of Francis Scott Key sat watching it, writing, say, can you see? And it got a bad rip in New Orleans, when Packingham and Jackson tugging at its seams, and it almost fell at the Alamo beside the Texas flag she waved on, though. She got cut with a sword at Chancellorsville, and she got cut again at Shiloh Hill. There was Robert E. Lee, Beauregard, and Bragg. There was the South wind blew hard on that ragged old flag. Old Flounders Field in World War I, she got a big hole from a Bertha gun. She turned blood red in World War II. She hung limp and low a time or two. She was in Korea and Vietnam. She went where she sent. She went where she was sent by Uncle Sam. She waved from our ships upon the briny foam, and now they've about quit waving her back here at home. In her own good land, she's been abused. She's been burned, dishonored, denied, and refused. And the government for which she stands is scandalized throughout the land. And she's getting threadbare and wearing thin, but she's in good shape for the shape she's in. Because she's been through the fire before, and I believe she can make it a whole lot more. So we raise her up every morning. We take her down every night. We don't let her touch the ground, and we fold her upright. On second thought, I do like to brag, because I'm mighty proud of that ragged old flag. That was written in 1975.
Yeah. If you tried to play that before an NFL game, there'd be riots.
Right.
My question, and this came from Mr. Producer Josh, are white players allowed to kneel during the black national anthem? That's one of the important questions I have. I think it's incredible that with all of the controversy over kneeling during the national anthem,
right,
the NFL higher-ups got together in a meeting. So, okay, we know we need to open. We know we need to let them protest. But we know that if we highlight the kneeling, people are going to hate it because the NFL's ratings have gone down ever since the kneeling started. What do we do? And the answer they came up with was give black people their own national anthem so that they don't have to identify with the Star-Spangled Banner. It is completely racist. It is completely segregationist. Right? It is completely contrary to everything we as a country have fought for, to be one nation under God, right? A house divided among itself cannot stand. And
indivisible.
Indivisible. These people want to just give, every race gets their own national anthem, and no, the Star-Spangled Banner is racist. We have to tear down statues to Francis Scott Key. It's incredible.
Well, I won't be watching the NFL. I will not go to a game at the NFL. I will not buy anything from the NFL. I will 100% support an absolute 100% boycott of the NFL. And I believe that most Americans feel that way. I believe that most Americans at the core are good people. I believe that most Americans are not racist. I believe we've taken a 1% problem and we've turned it into a 99% problem. And we've created boogeymen amongst men and women. And we've made everyone have to apologize and virtue signal while we have other massive problems that exist in our society that we need to address. We have muled the argument, the slippery slope has occurred, and now we're having conversations about racism and, that we're allowing an entire group of people, the loony left, to hijack and push blacks into a place where, frankly, they're going to be weakened by doing it. When they get separated from society, this is everything the left wanted. I'm telling you, it's what they wanted. They've been doing this for hundreds of years. They didn't change their tune. Democrats didn't change their tune. You know what? Here's the problem. Republicans, really bad at talking about things. They just do. Right? They just do. They show up and say, hey, listen, I'm just going to treat everyone with mutual respect. Yeah. The Democrats talk about trying to give people mutual respect. At the same time, they literally do everything they can to shut blacks out from, I'm going to talk about them specifically, out from opportunity. Right? When I was growing up, Max, I grew up in Washington, D.C., right? There wasn't a Republican within miles of where I grew up. There wasn't. It was all Democrats, right? Now, let me just tell you what happened. My dad would go to work. My mom would take him food, lunch. My dad, literally hardest working man I've ever met. My dad was the hardest working man, literally worked 12, 15 hours just to get out of the poverty that we were in, right? Every single time that my mom actually went and brought him dinner or brought him lunch, he lost his job. That happened. Democrats did that. Republicans never did that. They weren't anywhere around.
Because they were a biracial couple.
Because they're a biracial couple. Blacks hated me because my mom was white. Whites hated me because my dad was black. It was the craziest feeling growing up.
He would get fired because he, as a black man, was having his white wife deliver him lunch.
100%.
Just want to make sure everyone in listening understands that.
And it
talked
got
about it before, but want to set the context.
And it got so bad, Max, when I was growing up that, we would sit there and cry at Christmas, and the church would bring us over presents. Like, we knew what was happening, right? But we were broke not because we didn't want to work hard. We were broke because it seemed like everyone was against the idea of what my parents represented. And then it got worse. It got worse when my brother and sister, and they were, they were Milano, so they were mixed. It got worse for them because, then the hateful type of things that came out of people's mouths, they'd call my brother and sister spics. Right? Yeah. And they would say some terrible things about my family, all because and then they joke around and say salt and pepper, right? And they would and as I got older, I had to learn to fight because I would literally get jumped, right? As they're telling me that, they would say some. I'm not going to say it on this thing, but they would say some terrible things about my family.
Please don't say it because we're going to get kicked off of every platform except for Parler. But which, if you haven't gone and followed us on Parler yet, please do.
but it's debilitating to have to go through that, and it's insulting for these same people to say, we're for the black community. You weren't for the black community. I have a friend on Facebook right now that literally was one of the people when I was growing up, when I was in middle school. It was a massive problem for me. Massive. Used to make fun of my family all the time, right? And yet he's over there virtue signaling. And I literally say to him all the time, like, hey, listen, I wish you would have felt the same way back then. I said, so tell me, well, when did the change of heart come? And he's like, I don't remember anything that you're talking about. You don't remember it?
Yeah.
I remembered. I left.
Yeah.
I lived it. And this is the problem that I have, is that they have this subconscious to destroy and take away and weaken the foundation of the black community. Right?
And they're trying to do that by not by lifting African Americans up and welcoming them into the greater American nation.
Right.
It's by convincing them that they are too different to be part of that nation, and that nation, if they were to celebrate that national anthem, don't they know that national anthem is racist? Right? You cannot say that the best way to bring this country together is to start playing a black national anthem before the Star-Spangled Banner. It just doesn't make sense. And I was thinking, where have I heard about this black national anthem before? Where have I heard about it? And I remember, you probably remember this, in Denver, I think it was back in 2007, there was a singer, her name was Renee Marie, and she was supposed to sing the national anthem in the opening to like a Denver mayoral event. So there was the mayor, there were other city council members there, all standing on a stage, and she came out to sing the national anthem. And instead of singing the national anthem, she sang this black national anthem, Lift Every Voice. We have a brief clip of that. Let's go to cut 2.
Welcome Renee Martin to sing our national anthem.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring.
So we're not going to play that whole thing because it's very cringeworthy, because all of these Denver city council members are all sitting back there with their hand on their hearts, and they're watching her butcher the national anthem and insert this other poem, this black national anthem, as the lyrics. And they're all looking around like, do we still put our hand over our hearts? They're looking around like, what do we do? What do we still like stand at attention? And she was blasted for that. And that was just a couple of weeks before the Democratic National Committee held the convention in Denver that year. And I remembered, and I looked it up because I want to make sure I got it right. Obama was asked about what he thought about this woman, Renee Marie, singing the black national anthem at the event instead of the American national anthem. And this is what Obama said. He said, quote, "If she was asked to sing the national anthem, she should have sung that. Lift Every Voice and Sing is a beautiful song, but we only have one national anthem." Now, if Barack Obama was to say that, if 2007's Barack Obama was to say that about today's NFL, saying, listen, it's a nice song, but we only have one national anthem, he'd be accused of being an Uncle Tom, right? He'd be dragged through the mud. That Barack Obama has no place in today's radical left, which is how crazy this is, right? Barack Obama radically redefined the country. That was his goal. Even he would be too moderate for today's leftists. And that is terrifying. That should be terrifying to everyone.
I don't, and you're right, Max. You're right. I mean, we are in a place right now, and by the way, I want to trace this back in Afghanistan. Back in when the Taliban was literally just rising up and persecuting people and tearing down statues. This was actually happening in Afghanistan. It was happening in other parts of the Middle East. We didn't do anything about it. We just watched it happen. I mean, literally, we watched them destroy artifacts that were hundreds of years old, destroy history, rewrite history. And years later,
Same with ISIS.
Years later, we ended up having to go in there and annihilate them because that extremism led to just human rights violations that they're unspeakable. It led to terrorism. It led to, a group of people that literally terrorized the people within their community. There is a stark parallel to what we're experiencing in this country and what is experienced there. They have seen it happen, and we know what the outcome is. And the outcome is that we're going to have a violent, right, revolt against this kind of 1% minority that is now muling companies and organizations and government officials to let it happen. And frankly, when we do get tired of it, it's not going to be one person that dies. It's going to be millions of people that die, right? That's what's going to happen. On our soil, that's going to happen. And you can say, come on, Joe, it's not going to happen. We can get through it. The second you start stripping the identity of millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of Americans, all as you've done at that point is put it in a place where we have nothing left to lose. You've taken everything else from us. We're going to fight for our grandkids and our kids and our great-great-grandkids we will never see. We're going to start fighting for them. So I'm going to tell you right now, we're in a dangerous place as a country, and we're in that dangerous place because we've let it happen. We won't want to talk. There was an article this morning, Max, that said, and it was on Fox, and it was talking about the girl, the Harvard grad, right? I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
So the Harvard grad who came out, was working for Deloitte, and she said that she wants to stab every Trump supporter while she talks about a paper cut.
I'll paraphrase the entirety of what she said. Anyone who hasn't watched the video, it is the most spectacular self-inflicted wound that we've seen during all of these protests. What this girl said was that the next time she hears a white person say all lives matter, and she said the next time that any of you people have the caucasity, basically saying Caucasian and audacity, the audacity to be white, and say all lives matter, she's going to stab you. And she said, stab you, stab you, stab you. And then she said, as you're lying on the ground bleeding, she's going to come over.
Bleeding out.
She'll come over, bleeding out. She'll come over, show you a finger cut, and say, my cut matters too. And so basically saying that all lives matter. How can you say all lives matter when black people are being killed? It was disgusting. People were mad at her for saying that she's going to stab conservatives. I think it was, even though she said for legal reasons this is a joke, I don't actually believe that she has the capacity or the actual desire to stab everyone, but she was fired because I think it's far worse that she used the term caucasity, because that's basically saying the audacity to be white. Her hatred for white people, I think, is what's disqualifying. Not the idea that she's going to go around stabbing people. I think we know that's not going to happen. Her hatred for white people, though, should be disqualifying for any job. Like that should be a risk for any employer to hire her. And she's sad because conservatives basically sent that video to her new employer who she's about to start with, and they fired her. And now she's crying, saying, oh, it's not fair, it's not fair. It's so that's the story. I don't want to play the whole clip. I thought about playing it today, but I don't want it to get taken down because she's starting to go after conservatives who are playing the clip.
Well, she can come after me. Come on after me. Let's go.
Well, no, I mean, come after like the live streams, like copyright violations on live streams.
Oh well, here's the thing. You can actually do it if we played it over your face being on the screen, right? So you could actually.
Well, no, we just have to actually like talk about it. Just like when we played that clip from C-SPAN, and I said immediately after that sounds like a wonderful song. I have to add some critique to it in order for it to be fair use. Otherwise, we're just stealing the content. But she could still go after us, and it would be harder for us to fight it, and she might get us taken down for a couple of days. It's just not. It's not worth it. It's not worth giving her any more attention.
So here's my issue, right? I believe that the only way that you can actually go after the leftist ideology, these wackos on the left, which, by the way, have literally hijacked everything, I think the only way that you can actually do it is not to give them grace, is to meet them on the battlefield at the place by which they're willing to go. So this Harvard grad, this Ali Stuckey goes and says, I think the Harvard grad was wrong to blame firing over stabbing video, but Trump supporters but deserves quote unquote grace. So she's saying, hey, just give her a break. No, don't give her a break. There is no break. There's no break, Max. There's no break. This is a war. You want a war? You want to say you're going to stab conservatives? I don't care if you even have the ability to stab a conservative. I don't even care if you have the wherewithal, if you even have the courage to do it. I don't even care. I don't care if you're evil enough. What I'm saying is, no, you meet them exactly where they are. They want to go after conservatives? Great, come after me. Come at me. Come at me, bro. Let's go. But at the same time, be prepared for the fact that we're going to meet you there.
Yeah, you mentioned the Taliban. You mentioned the Taliban a second ago, and there is a German author. He was a playwright. His name was Heinrich Heine, and he wrote a book. It was in the 1820s, 1830s. And it was a play, and one of the lines in the play was, where they burn books, they will in the end burn humans too.
Right.
And it was very prophetic because this was a German playwright in the 1800s saying that where people burn books, they will next burn humans. It's not surprising that his books were one of the first thrown onto the pyres that the Nazis used, right? The book burning in Nazi Germany. It's not surprising that he was among the first to have his books burned. But we see this where you topple statues, where you destroy history, where you destroy books, where you destroy literature, where you demonize songs, right? That warning is still in effect. Where you burn books, next you will burn humans. If you are dehumanizing a statue and you are destroying the statue because the person depicted is white, do not be surprised when those same people start lashing out against living and breathing human beings, right? Because it's the same hatred. It's the same racism. It's identical. And I just want to bring up that quote from Heinrich Heine because it is so prophetic. I want to play this because this struck me. This is I don't know if you know who Marcellus Wiley is, but he is a former, I think, defensive end, and he has a show on Fox, FS1, Fox Sports 1.
Right.
And yesterday he was asked what he thought about the NBA announcing that they're going to paint Black Lives Matter onto the NBA courts. And he had a remarkably refreshing answer. So I want to play that. Let's go to cut 3.
But Marcellus, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
Is this a good idea?
It's not a good idea. I do want to give the players credit for their flex to even get this to be more than just an idea, but something that's going to be in reality. I give the players that. But there's a problem with when you start to go down this road of the freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and how much social space is allowed for those who don't support in that same space. And that's where I wonder where this is going to go in terms of identity politics. We know what identity politics does. It divides and it polarizes. No matter how you want to look at it, that's just the effect of it, no matter how great the intentions are. And we all know the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So it's an interesting play right here. I don't know how many people really look into the mission statement of Black Lives Matter, but I did. And when you look into it, there's a couple things that jump out to me. And I'm a black man who's been black, and my life has mattered since 1974. And this organization was founded in 2013. I'm proud of you. But I've been fighting this fight for me and for others a lot longer. 2 things. My family structure is so vital and important to me. Not only the one I grew up in, but the one I'm trying to create right now. Being a father and a husband, that's my mission in life right now. How do I reconcile that, what I just told you, with this mission statement that says, quote, we dismantle the patriarchal practice. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement. When I know statistics, when I know my reality, forget statistics. I knew this before I even went to Columbia and saw these same statistics that I'm going to read to you right now. That children from single-parent homes versus 2-parent homes. The children from the single-parent homes, this is in 1995 I was reading this. 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 6 times more likely to be in poverty, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 10 times more likely to abuse chemical substances, 14 times more likely to commit rape, 20 times more likely to end up in prison, and 32 times more likely to run away from home. I knew that. You know why I knew it? Because a lot of my friends didn't have family structures that were nuclear like mine, and they found themselves outside of their dreams and goals and aspirations. So when I see that, or as a mission statement for Black Lives Matter, it makes me scratch my head. When I also see their mission is to eradicate white supremacy. In 2020, white supremacy is the mission. Woo, that's a lot of digging through minutia right there. I am on a show that I'm hosting along with another black guy who is hosting with me, who replaced another black guy. And that's just one example of it. So I understand, I respect your space. I respect what you're protesting for. But will you respect others who don't support that same protest?
Ooh. How powerful is that?
We just got to clap for that because that was so spot on. I thought about cutting it up, but I said, you know what? He has to let him speak his piece because it's spot on. It's spot on. But if a white person said that those are the same words, they'd be branded as racist. I mean, you watch that clip. I don't know the man who's in the center, the white guy in the center, but he is like going out of his way not to nod at what Marcellus Wiley is saying. It's so common sense. But if anyone else had tried to deliver that message, they'd be branded as a racist. How dare you oppose Black Lives Matter? How dare you oppose our right to paint it on the courts, to paint it on the streets, to graffiti it on walls, right? It's insane that's what that took. And you're not seeing, I mean, that's going around in conservative circles, but that's not being spread far and wide. That's not a trending topic. That should have been a trending topic on all social media sites. But again, it goes against the narrative. It goes against the Black Lives Matter narrative, which if you actually do dive deep into their mission statements, they are Marxists. That's what they do. That's what they are. They are co-opting this whole movement to try and push their radical leftist agenda.
It has nothing to do with black people. It has nothing to do with black people. They literally said inside of it that they're going to destroy the nucleus of the family. It says it right there. And how could anybody look at that and actually support it? How? Max, we had this conversation about just how many bad things the Democrat Party and the loony left represent. I mean, just think about it. The amount of pedophilia, human trafficking that goes through the Democrat Party it's astounding.
Yeah, and Ghislaine Maxwell or whatever.
Yeah, arrested.
She was arrested yesterday, and she's naming names, and those names include British
Bill
royalty.
Clinton and Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's gonna get very messy.
And frankly, it's the only thing that's going to save her. And she's like, what do I have to lose? I'm not going to spend 20 years in prison. I'm going to give them all up. I have books. I promise you that she probably has books of information about all of these bad people. And it's going to be really deep. It's going to be really deep. And she's going to end up dying because she's going to kill herself by COVID.
She's going to be suicided. She's going to pull a Jeffrey Epstein. This is another thing. Yesterday, what came down is there was another situation with this whole Jeffrey Epstein saga where one of his victims had basically accumulated a list of names of people that Jeffrey Epstein had violated, had abused, right? A federal judge, I have to read into it more, but I was seeing yesterday a federal judge actually ordered her to destroy that evidence because it was unlawfully acquired. And that was being pushed by Alan Dershowitz, the lawyer who was on Trump's legal team during his impeachment. He's on Fox News all the time. He was in that like black book that she had compiled, and he sued her for defamation. And the judge is now ordering her to destroy the book. So there's a lot of really shady stuff going on with that. We're going to have to do a podcast all to that because we don't have time now to go into it. But there's very, very shady stuff. I want to get to this last clip, make sure we don't run out of time. We watched what happened with Fox Sports 1, how Marcellus Wiley was saying, Black Lives Matter is a radical organization. The White House, Kayleigh McEnany, was asked the same because Donald Trump put out a tweet saying that Black Lives Matter is a radical movement. She was asked about this, and her response was amazing. So I want to play that. Let's go to cut 4.
John. Kayleigh, why is the president calling Black Lives Matter a symbol of hate?
Well, what the president was noting is that that symbol, when you look at some of the things that have been chanted by Black Lives Matter, like pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon, that's not an acceptable phrase to paint on our streets. Look, he agrees that all Black Lives Matter, including that of Officer David Dorn, Patrick Underwood, 2 officers whose lives were tragically taken amid these riots. All Black lives do matter. He agrees with that sentiment. But what he doesn't agree with is an organization that chants pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon about our police officers, our valiant heroes who are out on the street protecting us each and every day.
Americans of all races have protested in all 50 states around that phrase, Black Lives Matter, and the president is here calling it a symbol of hate?
He's talking about the organization. I would note to you that the Greater New York BLM president has said if this country doesn't give us what we want, that we will burn down the system, and I could be speaking literally. I'd call that a pretty hateful statement.
Yes, Ben. He's not talking about the organization in his tweet. He says the words. Ben. He says the words. Black Lives Matter.
What's the name of the organization again?
Black Lives Matter.
There you go. You just answered my question.
She tore them to pieces. These little sniveling little asshats that sit in the.
No, we have to hit the explicit button.
Because of asshats?
Not, yeah.
All right, then let me keep going then.
Well, you definitely
All
just said it a second time. No, don't keep going. Don't keep going.
All right. I can't say it again. I really want to say it again. But here's my point, right? I mean, look, they're no match for anyone with any sort of a half of a gram of intellect. They're just not. You're talking about letting people who are stupid create chaos. And by the way, the people that are actually having them create chaos know what they're doing. They're over here robbing banks while we're over here worrying about and trying to defend, a movement. Like, who cares about the BLM movement? Because it does nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. And if we just put it in perspective, what better way to destroy the fiber of our country? What better way to destroy the fiber of our country than to actually separate black people completely from society? I mean, it's a divide and conquer, and they want to conquer those people. They want to do as much as they can. They turned abortion into a right. Now, listen, I'm pro-life, 100%. You'll never get me off of that, right? I'm pro-life 100% of the time. Now, do I think there's cases where you save the mother? I don't want to get into that. But anyways, I'm pro-life, right? Now, let's push that aside for a moment. And let's say that the Roe versus Wade gave people the ability to go get an abortion, right? Which I don't support the ruling at all, but that happened, right? That's our country. So if they really cared about the minority community, if they really cared about black people, then when somebody walked into Planned Parenthood, they would say, look, here are your options. Here are your options. You can obviously get an abortion, but let me tell you about some other options. First of all, can I have you hear the heartbeat of the baby that's inside of you, right? I mean, give them the ability to recognize what's happening, right? And then say, you can put the baby up for adoption. That's another option. There's lots of families out there that will love and care for your child. And the third of which is you could keep the child. And there are programs available that can help you care for your child. Now, that's not what they do. See, when you walk in to a Planned Parenthood, they want to destroy that baby's life. Their only mission is to abort that child, right? It is and you say, well, you get other services at Planned Parenthood. Great, you get other services at any doctor's office, actually. And we could create doctor's office that gives those services without actually having an abortion clinic being a place where you get those services.
And we don't need to even make this just conjecture. The data supports exactly what you're saying. Not even going into the Margaret Sanger part where she wanted to literally turn Planned Parenthood into a way to just commit genocide against African Americans. The data is in. I'm going to read this from the New York City Health Department. Between 2012 and 2016, black mothers, the health department states, terminated 136,426 pregnancies and gave birth to 118,127 babies. In that time frame, by the city of New York's own data, more black babies were killed than were born alive. We want to talk about equality. You want to talk about lifting the African American community up. You cannot be aborting more babies than are being born alive. That is a recipe for disaster, no matter how you slice it, right? How many Mozarts were killed, right? How many Einsteins were killed? You want to talk
100%.
about how the black community needs to be lifted up. You need to give the community itself a chance to lift itself up. Give yourself a chance to have a new generation. Generations of African Americans have been killed by the scourge of abortion. And yet we're still talking about Jim Crow. No, let's talk about that, right? Let's talk about how the community has been denied the right to geniuses. Like, you have no idea what a baby is going to become. But when you kill that many babies, you deny yourself geniuses. You deny yourself leaders that could possibly lead the community to great and amazing things, right? And it's not just African Americans, it's every group. When abortion steals our future from us, and we have no idea what that future could be, but just by the data that it's stealing a lot of very smart people, babies that would become smart people. So when I look at that and I look at those numbers, that in those 4 years, more black babies were aborted than born alive in New York City. You're right. It's spot on. And I'll say just one more thing, that the same statistics showed that when it came to white mothers, Asian mothers, and Hispanic mothers, more babies were born alive than aborted in all three of those other demographics. So it's not like this is happening in New York City across the board. This is an African American phenomenon in our inner cities, and to ignore it is tragic. And
they're doing it while telling people that they're actually there to protect them. I mean, that's the part that absolutely just blows my mind, is that they're falling for it hook, line, and sinker. They're actually saying, "Oh, this is absolutely right," and all these people they're actually for us. Well, they're not for us. They're not for the black community at all. They want to destroy the black community. But and by the way, we can go back to the fact that they can virtue signal all they want, but let's just look at the facts. Let's ignore all the chaos that they've created. Let's ignore all the propaganda. Let's ignore the fact that the media by itself hires disproportionately white people in the media, yet they're calling and saying that, oh yeah, we definitely need to take care of black people. That the big companies that are virtue signaling have less people, minorities, by far in their C-suite and management positions than almost every other industry in the tech space. But they're out there yelling and saying, hey, listen, we Black Lives Matter, we equal opportunity, while they're actually degrading those opportunities for black people. And now they're killing your kids. There you go. Congratulations. Democrat Party wins Murderers of the Year.
Yeah, Black Lives Matter except inside of abortion clinics. Then this movement is completely silent. So that really is all you need to know about it. I mean, it's remarkable that instead of actually dealing with real problems, these idiots in the NFL and the leftists that are basically enabling them think that, okay, what we need to do is we need to play another national anthem. The way to fix race relations in the country is to give African Americans their own national anthem before NFL games. It's so insane. That someone thought that this was a good idea.
I bet you it was
insane.
I bet you it was a white person that sat in some room and said, "Hey, listen, I know how to calm people down. I got it. We'll just give them the national anthem. Let's divide them even more. Let's put them in a room over here. These are segregationists, Max. These are people that literally hate black people. Democrats hate black people. They do, and even the Democrats that are in office that say that they're for blacks are doing everything they can to destroy them. Everything. Yeah. Everything.
Yeah.
And then
right. Well, go ahead, finish.
No, I am absolutely mortified that as a society we're letting it happen. As a society we're not standing up. So as these loony lefties are out there running their mouth, I know exactly what Republicans and conservatives are doing. They're like, well, nobody believes that. Nobody can actually believe that stuff. They're actually believing it. So if you morons don't actually stand up, and I'm talking about conservatives, if you morons don't start standing up and having courage, they're going to continue talking about, in fact, white fear, right? White people are fearful. I'm not fearful of anything. I'm not fearful of nothing. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel like I'm privileged. I feel like I work really hard to get what I have. I treat people, all people with respect. I'm not going to apologize for who I am, how I was born. I'm not going to apologize for any of it. But I am going to tell you that I'm going to stand up. You're going to hear me tell you you're full of crap. You're going to hear me tell you I can't support Black Lives Matter because the Black Lives Matter movement is an extremist, hijacked ideology that I want no part of. And it's killing my black brothers and sisters. That's what it's doing. It's not helping them. It's killing them.
And you mentioned like white fear. That's not the word that they technically use. They call it white fragility. That when you say, like, I don't support Black Lives Matter because of X, Y, and Z, trying to destroy the nuclear family, they're Marxists trying to burn down our society. If you say you don't support it, the leftists, the sociologists, the psychologists have branded that as called white fragility, that you're fragile in your whiteness. And that's why you're too terrified to your core to talk about race issues and to admit your white privilege because you're so fragile in that. The language that they've generated, they created out of thin air in their echo chamber. They invent this word and all the other leftists applaud. Oh, great job. Great word. It's insane. And it's indoctrination. And we're seeing that the people who were being indoctrinated when I was in college, just 10 years ago, now they're getting into positions of authority. People like AOC being in Congress, right? These people are now starting to become in positions of power. They're starting to run marketing departments of major companies right? And we're starting to see the form letter coming out like happy insert month here, whether it's Gay Pride Month or Black History Month or whatever, right? Happy blank month. Just know that we support blank ethnicity, right? It's so packaged. It's not real.
It wants to destroy the ethos and fiber of everything we represent as a country. Every single thing. Yeah. This is an ideology that is un-American to its core. Call them un-American. Democrats are pedophiles, rapists, and racists, closet racists. They're the only ones out there that have a governor that actually was in either blackface or a Klan uniform, and they still did not want him to resign. That should show you that these people want to put people that can take black people and weaken their entire environment. They want them in office. They want them to destroy the community. They want them to make inner cities uninhabitable. They want to treat people who are black people like animals. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
And you could say, no, they don't. Come on, they're all for us. That's just propaganda. That's because you guys are afraid of black people. Well, I'm in the black community. I'm not on the outside. I'm in it. And everybody's like, well, you don't speak for black people. Nope, I don't. I don't speak for white people. I don't speak for green people, purple people. I speak for me. I speak it based on experience, not a lack thereof. Someone in some university did not walk up to me and say, hey, you need to believe this. And police are bad and defund the police. And no, they didn't have to, because I'm a person of free thought. I'm a person that actually knows what logic is. And so I can tell you right now that everything optically or that's really happening is destroying the black community. It's not helping it. It doesn't even want to help it. It wants to destroy you. So if you're black and you're listening, congratulations if you're a Democrat. Congratulations if you support these people, because all they want to do is eventually kill you and your kids and your grandkids. And if you don't think that's true, then you're not paying attention. You're not looking at fact. You're not looking at fact.
Well, they want to use African Americans as much as they can. I mean, maybe we can end with this. We got good news today from the Supreme Court. There was an Obama judge down in Birmingham, Alabama, that had tried to overturn Alabama's voter ID requirement by saying that it's unconstitutional because it discriminates against black people, which is an insane notion. The idea that African Americans are somehow not smart enough or not able enough to get their own form of identification. I can't imagine how anything more racist than saying that black people can't figure out how to get an ID. Or black people as a whole can't afford an ID. But this Obama judge in Birmingham, Alabama, tried to overturn Alabama's voter ID requirement, and his ruling was going to stand. And the Supreme Court came in at the last minute today, a 5-4 ruling blocking that judge from imposing that radical idea that voter ID is racist. So at least for now, that voter ID requirement is still in effect. But we'll see if that lasts into November. Any final words, Joe, as we wrap up?
Yeah. So look, to have the courage to stand up and speak truth, right? And you'd say, well, Joe, it's your truth. It is my truth. But to speak just logical truth, like the facts that they're destroying the black community. That's the facts. The facts are that this judge in Mississippi, right? Alabama doesn't care about black people. He wants to make them look feeble and weak, and it actually hurts and erodes them. It doesn't, right? I mean, they're fighting for things that literally don't help the black community, right? So I just want people to have courage enough to speak to that, and also just be patient with people out there. But if people attack you, attack them back meet them where they are. Right? Don't try this, take the high road. High road is never going to work again. We need to basically just understand that right now we're on the battlefield. And the battlefield requires courage, and it requires your voice, and it requires you to speak up. So if you don't speak up, you're a part of the problem. That's all I got.
No, it's spot on. So I guess it's a good idea to just end it there. That's going to be it for this edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. Remember that you can download the podcast on Apple Podcasts if you have an iPhone, or the Google Play Store if you have an Android phone. You can also find us on the Podbean app, as well as conservative-daily.com/podcast. Do subscribe to it, even if you watch us on our live stream on Facebook or YouTube. Do subscribe. It really helps us get those numbers up. We're also now on Parler, so you can find us by searching at Conservative Daily, all one word, or at Conservative Daily Podcast. That's another one we have for the podcast. So definitely follow us on Parler. We're up to 500 followers now, and we've only been on for a little over 2 days. So definitely follow, and we will be happy to follow you back. So again, my name is Max McGuire.
And this is Joe Otto.
And remember that the fight to take back our country isn't over, but the only way we win is if we all stand together.